They say silence in space can drive even the strongest mind to madness. For the young alien princess, it was not madness she feared, but the weight of remembering everything she had lost. Her name was Illyra Varn, the last living heir of a once great civilization called the Lithari Dominion. She wasn't a warrior or a ruler yet. She was only 22 cycles old when her homeworld burned. The fall of Lithar Prime was sudden, unexpected, and cruel. Historians still debate what truly caused it. Some say it was political betrayal. Others believe it was an ancient curse. But one thing is clear from her surviving logs. Illyra didn't escape as a hero. She escaped because she was ordered to. Her mother, the High Matriarch, forced her into an envoy ship and sent her away seconds before the capital was destroyed. The princess had never been alone before that day. She had always been surrounded by advisors, tutors, guards, and friends who bowed to her with respect. Now she floated in the endless dark, the stars her only company. Her ship, the Seraphis Dawn, was small, just large enough for one crew member and a service AI. It was meant for short diplomatic trips, not survival in deep space. But somehow Illyra made it work. The first weeks were spent trying to contact anyone, any signal, any voice that could tell her what had happened to her people. Her voice was tired in the transmissions she sent out. "This is Princess Illyra of Lithari Dominion," she said again and again. "If anyone receives this message, please respond." No one did. Every day she stared through the glass of her cockpit into the unending void. Her people had once called space the Eternal Garden, believing it was filled with life, beauty, and harmony. But now it looked cold and heartless. Illyra was not trained for survival. She was trained for diplomacy, to talk, to negotiate peace, to smile when others frowned. She had studied the languages of 7 alien species and could quote entire passages from treaties written before her birth. Yet none of that helped her now. Her AI companion, a voice called Neris, tried to comfort her. "Princess, may I recommend meditation protocols?" it said gently, but she ignored it most days. Sometimes she would walk to the observation deck and just stand there for hours, watching stars move so slowly that it felt like time itself had stopped. Her ship logs from that time still survive, discovered centuries later by salvage crews. The words are simple but heartbreaking. "I can't hear them anymore." No voices, no signals. The stars are too quiet. Maybe they're gone. Maybe I'm the last, but Illyra didn't give up. Even in her despair, she began to map uncharted regions, scanning for any trace of her people. Her maps were rough, hand-drawn on an old holographic pad. Researchers who later examined them found hundreds of star systems marked with her notes. Small phrases like possible refuge or energy readings detected. One night, after 49 days alone, Illyra heard something. A faint pulse echoing through her comm system. It wasn't a voice, not even a proper signal. It was more like a heartbeat. 3 short pulses, then a pause. Then 3 more. She leaned closer to the console. "Is that a distress beacon?" she whispered. Her AI couldn't identify it. It didn't match any modern signal pattern. The rhythm was ancient. At first, she thought she was imagining it. The mind plays tricks in the dark. But when she traced the source, she found it came from a region far outside known trade routes. A cold, empty stretch of deep space that her people used to call the Whispering Void. No sane pilot ever went there. Old stories said ships vanished inside it. Illyra had grown up hearing those tales as bedtime stories. Her mother used them to scare her into obedience. "Do not wander too far from the star path," she used to say. "The void remembers those who forget their place." Yet now Illyra found herself drawn to it. "I have nowhere else to go," she said quietly, recording another log entry. "If there's a signal, someone must be sending it. And if someone's sending it, they might still be alive." It was a decision that would change her destiny forever. As she entered the coordinates, her navigation system flickered. The ship's lights dimmed. Static hissed through her headset, and the AI stuttered as if unsure whether to proceed. "Warning," Neris said. "This sector is uncharted and unstable. Recommend a boarding course." Illyra didn't listen. "Do it," she ordered. The Seraphis Dawn jumped into the void. The journey took almost a full solar cycle. During that time, Illyra's health began to decline. Supplies were limited, and she rationed everything: food, air, even light. She started recording video logs to keep herself sane. Some of those recordings were later recovered. In one, she sits on the floor of her cabin, hair unkempt, eyes tired but alert. She smiles faintly and says, "My people believe the stars sing. Maybe I'll hear their song again someday." But the stars didn't sing. They whispered. Strange lights began appearing outside her viewport. Faint blue streaks, like comets that moved against gravity. Her sensors couldn't identify them. At first she thought they were just cosmic dust or lens flares, but when she looked again, the streaks were closer. Her AI began malfunctioning, giving random readings. The navigation display showed coordinates shifting without input. "Neris, what's happening?" she asked. "Unknown anomaly detected," it replied. The next entries in her log became increasingly fragmented. "I think something's following me," she said in one. "But when I look, there's nothing there." Despite her fear, she kept flying. She had a mission now, to uncover the truth behind the signal. In her later entries, she begins to mention something strange. The echo. She writes, "The echo is growing stronger. It's not a voice, but it feels alive, like it's watching." Those words would later become famous among historians studying her disappearance. Eventually, after weeks of travel, her ship reached the coordinates where the mysterious pulse had originated. There was nothing visible. No planets, no stars, only darkness so thick it seemed to swallow light itself. She slowed the ship and stared into the void. The pulse stopped. Everything went still, and then she felt it. A sudden vibration through the hull. A deep, distant hum. Her AI flickered again. "Energy surge detected ahead," it said. "What kind?" she asked. "Unclassified," it replied. That was the first official record of what later became known as the Mythic signal. But at that moment, Elira didn't know she had found something legendary. She just knew she wasn't alone anymore. She leaned toward the glass and whispered, "If anyone's out there, show me you're real." The darkness didn't answer, but a faint glow began to form in the distance, like a star being born. Her heart raced. She didn't know if it was hope or danger. She reached out her hand toward the window, almost as if she could touch it. That was the final image captured in her first recovered video log. The young alien princess alone in the void, reaching out to a light she didn't understand. Many believe that was the moment she first made contact with the thing people would later call the Revenant. But for Elira, in that moment it was just a light in the dark, and for the first time in months, she didn't feel completely alone. The light in the darkness didn't fade. It pulsed slowly like the beat of a giant heart. At first, Elira thought it might be a dying star or a reflection from her ship's sensors. But when she adjusted the readings, the glow stayed still, fixed, deliberate, as if waiting for her to notice. She stared at it for a long time before whispering, "What are you?" The AI voice, still damaged from the long journey, gave no clear answer. "Energy source. Unknown origin. Pattern not in database." That phrase repeated over and over until Elira shut it off. She sat alone in the cockpit, feeling the vibration of her ship against her hands. The silence returned, but the light outside kept glowing. It reminded her of an old story from her childhood, the kind told by scholars and elders before bedtime. It was called the Revenant Tale. The story spoke of a warship so powerful it could bend time itself. It was said to vanish during the last great war of the ancients, a ship commanded by beings who believed they were gods. They called it the Revenant, meaning the one that returns, but no one ever saw it again. Most dismissed it as a legend, a cautionary tale about pride and power. Yet as Elira watched the glow through her viewport, she couldn't help but remember the story. "It can't be real," she murmured. "It's just a myth." But myths have a strange way of finding those who don't believe in them. She began collecting data, scanning the area, recording readings, saving every fragment of information. The light's pulse wasn't random. It repeated in a rhythm almost musical, like coded language. Could it be a signal? She asked aloud. Her ship's log captured everything. She tried matching the sequence against known alien dialects. None of them fit. So she slowed it down and played it through the speakers. The pulse echoed across the cabin, soft, deep, and haunting. It almost sounded like breathing. For the first time since her exile, Elira felt something stir inside her. Not fear, not sadness, but curiosity. "I have to know," she said quietly. "If this is real, if someone's out there." She decided to follow the signal. Days turned into weeks. The light grew stronger, brighter. Each time she neared its source, it moved again, like it was leading her somewhere. The ship's systems began to behave strangely. Instruments glitched, power flickered, and time felt distorted. Sometimes an hour passed in what felt like seconds. Other times a single minute stretched endlessly. Her logs from this period are filled with confusion. In one entry she says, "I think I'm being tested. The ship's systems are fine one moment and frozen the next. But every time I think about turning back, the light brightens again. Maybe it wants me to keep going." The more she followed the light, the more the old legend returned to her mind. In the ancient archives of the Lithari, the Revenant was described as a ship of shadows made of forgotten matter, appearing only to those who have lost everything. It was said that its crew were spirits, not dead, not alive, forever wandering the void. Of course, those were only stories. But now Illyra wasn't sure. During her 7th week near the signal, her sensors detected something massive, a structure or object hidden in the dark. It reflected no light, absorbed every scan. The closer she got, the stronger the pulse became. Her AI's voice broke through the static. "Unregistered mass detected? Recommend immediate retreat," but Illyra ignored it. "No," she said softly. "I came too far." Outside the window, tiny sparks of blue lightning flickered across the void, dancing like veins through black water. Then, for the first time, the light she had been following blinked out, gone completely. The silence that followed was crushing. Illyra froze. "Where did it go?" she whispered, and then something spoke back. Not in words, in vibration. The walls of her ship trembled, and a deep hum filled the air. It was rhythmic, ancient, like the echo of 1,000 voices merged into one. The readings on her screen went wild. Her breath quickened. "Is someone there?" No response came, only another vibration, stronger this time. Her lights flickered, and for a moment the cockpit filled with a faint image like a ghostly shadow passing through the glass. A shape, a silhouette. She leaned closer. The outline was enormous. It stretched far beyond her view, a dark shape with angular edges and faint glowing lines that looked like runes. Her heart stopped. "It's real," she whispered. "The Revenant." The AI struggled to respond. "Impossible. Object matches no known vessel design." She laughed, a shaky, nervous laugh that sounded almost like disbelief. "Everything about this is impossible." The hum grew louder until the ship's panels shook. Illyra pressed her palms to her ears, trying to block it out. Then, as suddenly as it began, the sound stopped. Silence again. But outside, the dark shape remained, faintly visible now, as if emerging from the void itself. It was beautiful in a haunting way, massive, elegant, and terrifying. Illyra stared in awe. It looked like a warship, but not built by any known civilization. Its design was ancient yet advanced, like something made before time itself had rules. She whispered to herself, "If this is the Revenant, then why appear to me?" No one could answer. For several hours, Illyra just watched. The ship didn't move, didn't attack. It floated silently, almost peacefully, surrounded by drifting fragments of light. It was as if it existed between worlds, half real, half illusion. She decided to send a transmission. "This is Illyra of Lithari Dominion," she said. "Identify yourself. Do you hear me?" Her message vanished into the void. No reply came back. She tried again. And again. Still nothing. Then her navigation screen flickered. Not from malfunction, but from an incoming response. Not sound. Not words. A pattern. The same pulse she had followed all this time, but now it was faster, urgent, alive. Her eyes widened. "You do hear me," she said softly. "You've been calling me." It was a strange feeling, excitement mixed with fear. She felt small and seen at the same time, as if standing before something beyond her understanding. The Revenant began to move. It didn't travel in a straight line like normal ships. It drifted sideways through the darkness, almost gliding, leaving ripples in space behind it. Stars bent slightly as it passed. Her sensors recorded gravitational distortions, proof that this was no illusion. For the first time, Illyra realized she wasn't following the myth. The myth was leading her. She watched in silence as the colossal warship turned. For a brief second, its surface reflected the faint light from her vessel. She could see markings, not letters, but symbols carved deep into the hull. They glowed faintly like embers of ancient fire, and then she noticed something that made her skin crawl. The symbols matched the language used in her mother's old crown, the forgotten script of the first Lithari rulers. Her mind raced. How could a ship from ancient legends bear her people's language? Tears filled her eyes. Were they ours? She whispered. Did we build this? The AI began to glitch again. Power levels unstable. Radiation increasing. Elira knew she should leave, but something in her heart told her to stay. She felt a connection, as if the ship itself wanted her to see it, to remember something lost long ago. Her last log from that moment says, "The Revenant is not a ghost. It's a message. It's showing me that my people's past wasn't destroyed and it was hidden. Maybe it's calling me home." The rest of that recording ends in static. What happened in the hours that followed remains unknown. Later data recovered from her black box show massive energy, fluctuations and strange distortions in time around her ship's coordinates. Some scientists believe she entered a gravitational field so strong that it bent light and communication signals. Others say the Revenant opened a passage, not a weapon but a doorway. No one knows for sure. What they do know is that when rescue probes finally reached that region weeks later, there was no trace of her ship. Only a faint pulse remained, repeating endlessly through the darkness. The same rhythm Elira had once followed. To this day, travelers in that sector report hearing that sound over their radios. 3 short pulses, a pause, then 3 again. They call it the whisper of the myth. And those who hear it say it feels like someone, somewhere, is still trying to tell a story, one that began long ago with a young princess alone in the void, chasing a light that shouldn't exist. When the Revenant disappeared, it left behind only silence. No light, no sound, just the emptiness of space stretching endlessly around her. Elira sat in her cockpit for hours, staring at the spot where the great ship had been. Her hands trembled slightly, but not from fear, from disbelief. She had seen something that wasn't supposed to exist, something her ancestors had called a myth. For the next few days, she stayed near the same coordinates, trying to scan the area again and again. The results were the same every time, nothing. The signal was gone, the readings flat, the space empty, yet she couldn't bring herself to leave. It was real, she whispered to herself more than once. It was right there. Her AI, still glitching from radiation exposure, offered mechanical suggestions. Recommend system reboot. Recommend navigation course reset. But Elira didn't listen. She knew what she had seen. And then on the 7th day, something strange happened. While she was reviewing the data from her earlier scans, her console flickered. A faint pattern appeared. Not an image, but a repeating pulse of code. It wasn't sound, not light, just a sequence of symbols appearing on the screen for half a second at a time. At first, she thought it was just another malfunction. But then the symbols repeated again. And again, the same rhythm. Her heart skipped a beat. That pattern, I've seen this before, she said softly. It was the same pulse that had led her to the Revenant. Only this time, it was different. The intervals were shorter, more precise. Someone, or something, was trying to send a message. She copied the data into the ship's system and began analyzing it. The code didn't match any known communication language. It wasn't binary, it wasn't Old Lithari, and it wasn't anything the AI could translate. Still, there was something familiar about it, something that felt almost alive. After hours of trying to decode it, she realized that the sequence wasn't random. When she converted the pulse intervals into tones and played them back, they formed a melody, a slow, echoing tune that seemed almost human. She listened to it over and over. There was something haunting about the sound. It wasn't just noise. It had rhythm, emotion, even sadness. What are you trying to say? She whispered to the empty air. The next day, her long-range sensors picked up another anomaly. A faint energy echo, several light years away, perfectly in sync with the pulse pattern. It was as if something, maybe the same source, was calling her again, this time from a new location. She hesitated. After everything she'd been through, part of her wanted to turn back, to find a safe world and live quietly. But another part of her, the part that had always believed in answers, couldn't walk away. If this is the same signal, she said in her log, then it's not random. It's guiding me somewhere, and I have to find out why. So once again she set her course for the unknown. The journey took days. Her ship drifted through fields of dust and quiet starlight. She rarely slept. Every few hours the pulse would play again through her speakers. Soft, constant, steady. It was like traveling with a heartbeat beside her. Sometimes she talked to it. "Are you alive?" she'd ask softly. "Are you trying to find me or warn me?" There was never a reply, but she kept talking anyway. It made the loneliness a little easier to bear. On the 5th day of the journey, the energy readings grew stronger. Her screens lit up with movement, lines and shapes that shifted like waves of light. The hum of her engines grew louder, and the pulse in the background began to blend with the vibrations of the ship. It almost felt like the two were connected. She leaned back in her seat, eyes fixed on the growing light ahead. "Almost there," she whispered. But as she approached the source, her ship began to shudder. Instruments flickered and alarms echoed through the cabin. The AI stuttered mid-sentence, unable to calculate what was happening. "Unstable field detected," it said. "Recommend immediate retreat." Elira's grip tightened on the controls. "No," she said firmly. "We've come this far." The light outside her window stretched, warped, and then split apart into dozens of tiny fragments. Each fragment glowed with a faint golden hue like stars breaking open. Then the sound came, a deep, resonant tone that shook her bones. It wasn't coming from her ship. It was coming from the void itself. Her sensors went blank. Everything froze for a second. And then, as if reality had taken a breath, the light reformed, this time into something solid. Before her, suspended in the emptiness, was a structure unlike anything she had ever seen. It wasn't a ship, not in the normal sense. It looked like a tower made of crystal and metal, spinning slowly in place. Rings of energy surrounded it, pulsing with the same rhythm as the signal. Her breath caught in her throat. "What is that?" The AI tried to analyze it, but failed. No data available. Source unknown. Composition unknown. Elira stared in silence. The tower seemed to hum softly, almost as if it was alive. She could see faint light moving within it, flowing patterns like veins carrying energy. "This is it," she whispered. The signal's source. She maneuvered closer, keeping her distance. As she approached, her comm system crackled to life. Static filled the air, and then beneath the static she heard something that froze her completely. A voice. It was faint, distorted, but unmistakably there. Elira. Her heart pounded. "Who is this?" she shouted. The voice faded, replaced by static again. But for that one moment she was sure of what she heard. Her name. Someone out there knew who she was. She tried to respond, sending multiple messages through every frequency, but no answer came. Still, the tower continued to pulse, matching her heartbeat almost reassuringly. Her AI finally stabilized enough to read partial data. Signal appears to be originating from within the structure. Language matrix resembles pre-imperial Lithari script. Her eyes widened. "That's impossible," she whispered. "That language hasn't been used for over 1,000 years." She opened her archives and compared the shapes, and it was true. The markings on the tower were the same ancient script used in the oldest temples of her homeworld. Elira felt something shift inside her, a realization that made her chest tighten. This wasn't random. The Revenant, the signal, this tower, they were all connected, and somehow it was all tied to her people's forgotten past. But before she could investigate further, the energy around the tower surged. Light exploded outward, blindingly bright. Her ship was thrown off course, spinning wildly. She clung to her seat, struggling to stabilize the controls. "Power levels critical," the AI warned. She managed to steady the vessel, gasping for breath. The light outside faded again, and the tower was gone, vanished as suddenly as it had appeared. In its place, only darkness remained. Her ship drifted silently for hours after that. The system slowly recovered, but the readings made no sense. According to her navigation data, she hadn't moved at all. Time itself had paused during the event. Shaking, she checked her log. The signal had stopped completely. The universe was silent again, and then she noticed something new. A single line of text appeared on her screen. Not from her AI, not from her controls, and it appeared on its own. The letters glowed faintly, written in the same ancient language. She translated it using her archives. The words were simple but chilling. "We are waiting." Her fingers froze over the console. She whispered, "Who's waiting?" There was no response. The message vanished as quickly as it appeared. That was the last confirmed entry from Mo, Illyra's official ship logs before her next blackout. Period experts who later studied the data believed that the tower she found wasn't a physical object at all, but a projection, maybe a message, maybe a test. The strange code, the hum, the light, all signs of technology far beyond known civilizations. But others think differently. They believe the tower was a doorway, a bridge between the past and present created by those who once built the Revenant. As for Elyra, her fate at this point was uncertain. Her ship continued to drift through the stars, recording faint energy traces that scientists even today struggle to explain. And though her final logs end abruptly, one thing is clear: she wasn't running anymore. Whatever waited beyond that signal, she was going to face it, because sometimes the greatest discoveries are not made by those who seek glory, but by those who seek meaning in the silence. And in that endless silence of space, Elyra had found something worth believing in again. For several days after the message, "We are waiting," appeared on her screen, Elyra barely slept. She replayed the moment again and again in her mind. The Tower of Light, the voice whispering her name, and the sudden silence that followed. It was as if the universe itself had spoken to her, and then gone quiet, leaving her alone with a question she couldn't answer. Who was waiting? She spent hours scanning her surroundings, trying to detect any trace of the tower, but her instruments showed nothing. No radiation trails, no energy residue, no signs that anything had ever been there. It was as if the event had erased itself from existence. Her AI continued to malfunction, sometimes repeating words from her own voice logs, almost like it was haunted by the data it couldn't process. "We are waiting," it whispered once in a distorted tone that made her shiver. "Stop playback," she ordered softly, trying to calm her racing heart. The silence returned, thick and heavy. Days passed. Her food supply grew low, and her ship began to feel smaller, like the walls were closing in. But Elyra refused to turn back. She had come too far. She spent her nights staring through the glass of her observation window, searching the dark horizon for any movement, any flicker of light. Most nights there was nothing, just the slow drift of stars and the faint hum of her ship's engines, until one night, when the stars began to disappear. At first she thought it was a system glitch. Her navigation screen went blank and the starfield outside dimmed as if someone had lowered a curtain across the universe. Her breath caught. "Neris?" she said, calling her AI. "Adjust external sensors." Unable to comply, the voice replied weakly. "Optical field interference detected." "What kind of interference?" There was a pause. "Unknown." The darkness outside wasn't just emptiness anymore. It had texture, faint moving shadows that seemed to breathe. And then from deep within that darkness came a sound, a low hum, slow and rhythmic, just like before. Her pulse quickened. She knew that sound. She ran to her console, activating every sensor she could. The hum grew louder, vibrating through the hull. The panels flickered, and for a split second her screen filled with static. Then, something appeared. It started as a glimmer, like a distant spark. But the spark grew brighter, stretching across the void, splitting into long beams of crimson and silver light. Elyra stood frozen, unable to look away. The beams formed an outline, vast, symmetrical, impossibly large. Slowly, a shape began to emerge, its edges glowing faintly in the dark. It was like watching a ghost step out of another world. Her voice trembled. "It's back!" The Revenant had returned, only this time it wasn't faint or hidden. It was clear, massive, and fully real. Its surface shimmered with strange light, like liquid metal flowing beneath glass. The hull was covered in symbols, the same ancient markings she had seen before, glowing softly like embers of memory. Her sensors overloaded. Every alarm on her dashboard went off at once, but she didn't move. She couldn't. She just stared. The warship's size was beyond comprehension, stretching for miles, casting a shadow across entire starfields. It didn't move like a normal vessel. It drifted, slow and silent, as though space itself parted to let it through. Elyra whispered, "You're real." For a moment, she forgot her fear. The ship was terrifying, yes, but also beautiful, like a relic from another age, returning to remind the universe that some legends never die. Her AI crackled to life. Warning: extreme gravitational fluctuations detected. Recommend evacuation. She didn't respond. Instead, she pressed her hand against the glass, watching the faint reflection of her face beside the monstrous silhouette of the Revenant. It was almost poetic. A lone survivor facing a myth reborn. As she stared, the lights on the Revenant began to shift, moving like waves across its surface. Then, a pattern formed, the same rhythm as the pulse that had led her here. 3 beats. Pause. 3 more. She gasped. "You're talking to me." It was communicating not through words, but through light. Her ship translated the pulses into data streams. The result wasn't language, not exactly, but a repeating set of coordinates, points scattered across the void. "What are these?" she murmured. "Destinations?" The AI processed for several moments. "Coordinates correspond with destroyed lithary colonies. Time index pre-collapse." Her eyes widened. "Those are my people's worlds." The realization hit her like a wave. The Revenant wasn't just showing her random points. It was showing her history. Every place where her civilization had fallen. Every world her ancestors had lost. And she understood something in that instant. The ship wasn't an enemy. It was a messenger. But before she could do anything, the light from the Revenant changed again. The pulses grew faster, the glow brighter, her entire cockpit filled with red light. "Neris," she shouted. "What's happening?" "Energy surge detected. Unknown origin. Possible dimensional breach." The floor beneath her feet vibrated. Her ship tilted slightly, pulled by an unseen force. She gripped the control panel tightly. "Hold steady." Outside, the Revenant began to move, slowly turning toward her, its surface shimmering with rippling energy. For a brief moment, she thought it might attack, but instead of firing, it simply hovered there, silent and still. Then a new sound filled the air, a low tone that made her chest vibrate. The AI went silent. The screens went dark, only the sound remained. And in that sound, she heard something impossible. Voices, thousands of them overlapping and distant, like whispers carried through wind. They spoke in an ancient dialect she didn't fully understand, but one word repeated clearly. "Return." Her eyes filled with tears. She whispered back, "I can't. There's nothing left to return to." The voices faded, leaving behind a silence so deep it felt alive. Outside, the Revenant's lights dimmed again, its glow fading back into the darkness. It wasn't gone this time, just dormant, watching her, waiting. Illyra slowly sat down, her body trembling. She felt small, not because she was afraid, but because she finally understood the scale of what she was witnessing. She wasn't just looking at a ship. She was looking at her people's forgotten creation, a relic that had survived when they hadn't. Somehow, against all reason, the Revenant had come back. She opened a new recording in her ship's log. Her voice was steady, calm. "It's real. The Revenant exists. It remembers us. Maybe it's been searching just like I have. Maybe it never stopped." She paused, staring at the dark shape outside her window. "I don't think it's an enemy. I think it's lonely." For hours she kept recording, describing every sound, every flicker of light. Her voice was quiet but filled with awe. Later, a passing salvage crew would find fragments of her transmissions, their sensors picking up strange radiation near the same coordinates. They never saw the Revenant themselves, but they captured one brief image from a damaged camera feed. In that single frame, they saw a vast shadow edged with red light, and a lone figure standing at the window of a small vessel. Her face lit by the glow of something ancient and powerful. That image would become famous across galaxies, the Princess. In the void, as they called it. No one knew what happened to her after that. Some say the Revenant took her away, not in violence, but in invitation. Others believe her ship was lost when the anomaly closed. But in that moment, frozen forever in a single image, she didn't look afraid. She looked at peace. Maybe for the first time since her exile began, she had found what she was searching for. Proof that her people's story wasn't over, and perhaps, somewhere in that vast endless darkness, the Revenant still drifts, carrying the memory of the Lithari, and the echo of a princess who dared to face the unknown, because legends don't vanish. They wait, in silence, for someone brave enough to see them again. The next few hours passed in total silence. Illyra sat by the window staring at the faint outline of the revenant in the darkness. It didn't move. It didn't speak. It just hovered there, still and silent, like a sleeping giant waiting to wake. Her ship drifted quietly beside it, tiny and fragile compared to the enormous vessel. Every few minutes her systems flickered with static, like something unseen was brushing against her ship's sensors. She tried to communicate, to send out light pulses and coded signals, but the revenant didn't answer. Still, she couldn't leave. Something deep inside her told her that this moment meant everything, that her entire journey, her pain, her loneliness, had led her here. For the first time in years, she didn't feel lost. She felt connected. The faint hum returned, low and soft, almost like a heartbeat. The same pulse she had heard before, and a slow, steady, alive. Her AI came back online with a faint spark. Power stabilized. Unknown energy source detected in proximity. Illyra glanced at the readings. The numbers didn't make sense. Energy was flowing from the revenant into her ship, keeping it alive, as if it was protecting her. She whispered, "You're helping me." The light from the warship brightened again, this time softer, golden instead of red. It wasn't cold or threatening. It felt warm, almost gentle, her eyes filled with tears. It was strange, standing before something so powerful yet feeling so safe. She took a deep breath. "If you can understand me, I'm not your enemy. I just want to know why you're here, why you called me." Her voice echoed in the small cabin. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, her control panel flickered to life and symbols appeared, the same markings she had seen on the ship's hull. Her AI translated slowly. Message received. Awaiting synchronization. She didn't understand. Synchronization? What does that mean? Unknown, the AI replied. The lights dimmed again. A vibration ran through her ship, gentle at first, then stronger. The room filled with shimmering patterns of light, streams of golden energy swirling around her like ribbons in the air. Illyra stepped closer, her eyes wide. She could feel warmth on her skin like sunlight. Her heart pounded. "Is this you?" The lights seemed to respond. They circled her, forming delicate shapes, not random but deliberate. Slowly they came together to create an image. A face. Not human, not machine, something between. Its eyes glowed softly, filled with sadness and memory. Illyra froze. "Who are you?" The face spoke, but not in words. Instead, she felt it, a voice inside her mind, calm and echoing. "We are the echo, fragments of those who came before." "You carry their blood." Her knees went weak. "You mean the Lithari?" The light shimmered like a silent nod. She couldn't believe it. "You survived. Inside the ship? Not survived. Preserved. Bound to the vessel when the worlds fell. We have waited for a voice that could hear." Tears rolled down her cheeks. For so long, she had believed her people were gone forever, their voices lost, their knowledge erased. But now they were speaking to her through light, through memory. She reached out, her fingers trembling, touching the air where the light shimmered. "Why me?" she whispered. The answer came softly. "You carry the last code, the royal key. The worlds were lost, but their seed was not. You are its keeper." She didn't understand at first, then her heart raced. "The royal key? You mean my bloodline?" "Yes, only the blood can open what was closed." Illyra stepped back, struggling to breathe. Her mind spun. All her life she had been told her people's fall was final, that nothing could restore what was gone. But now this voice was telling her there was something left, something she could awaken. "What do you want me to do?" she asked quietly. The light around her began to move faster, filling the room with golden streams that circled her body like a slow storm. The face faded, replaced by a new image, a cluster of stars forming a spiral pattern. Follow the light. Restore the memory. The path will open when you remember who you are. And then the lights vanished. Her ship fell silent again. The revenant outside dimmed, leaving only the faint outline glowing against the void. Illyra stood there, shaking. Everything she thought she knew about her people, her past, her purpose, had just changed in a moment. She whispered, They're still here. Inside that ship. She sat down at her console and replayed the event. The data made no sense. Pure energy patterns, impossible readings. But she didn't care about the science. She cared about what it meant. The Revenant wasn't just a warship. It was a memory, a living vault that carried her people's essence. For the next few days, Elira stayed in orbit near the Revenant, studying every pulse of light, every vibration. The ship remained quiet, almost asleep again, but she could feel it watching her. Not with suspicion, but with recognition. She started speaking to it daily, as if it could hear her. "I know you're still there," she said one night, sitting by the window. "I'm trying to understand. I'm not as strong as the ones who came before, but I'll try." Her voice cracked and she smiled softly. "You must have waited a long time, maybe too long." She fell asleep in her chair that night, the faint hum of the Revenant like a lullaby. When she woke, something was different. The ship's internal lights had turned a soft blue. Her AI reported stable power, 0 threats, and when she looked outside, she saw that the Revenant had moved, slightly closer. Her breath caught. "You're not done, are you?" Then, without warning, her ship's screen came to life again. The same symbols appeared, but this time they arranged into a map, not of destroyed worlds, but of something new. A nebula, glowing faintly in the corner of known space. The AI translated the coordinates. Destination confirmed. Signal origin, heart of the nebula. Elira's hands trembled as she stared at the map. That nebula was rumored to be unstable, full of radiation storm. No one went there. But the message was clear. The next step of the journey was there. She looked once more at the Revenant. Its lights pulsed slowly. 3 beats, pause, 3 beats, like before. A goodbye, or maybe an invitation. She smiled faintly. "All right," she whispered. "I'll follow." Her engines roared to life and the small ship began to move. Behind her, the Revenant remained still, but as she drifted away, its lights flickered once, bright enough to cast a golden glow across her hull. It felt like a blessing. As she entered the vast stretch of space leading to the nebula, she could feel something change inside her. She wasn't just searching for answers anymore. She was carrying her people's legacy, their voice, their last message. She didn't know what awaited her ahead. Maybe another mystery, maybe danger, but she no longer felt fear. In the darkness of space, her reflection appeared faintly in the window. For the first time, she didn't see a lost exile. She saw someone becoming who she was always meant to be. The bridge between what was gone and what could return. Hours later, as she approached the glowing mist of the nebula, her sensors flickered again. For a brief moment, she thought she saw movement, shapes of light swirling deep inside as if something ancient was waiting for her there too. Her AI's voice broke the silence. "Entering proximity of target coordinates. Radiation levels stable. Awaiting orders." Elira smiled softly. "Let's go in." The ship glided into the glowing blue mist, disappearing slowly into the haze. Far behind her, the Revenant still floated in the void, quiet, timeless, patient, and though no one could hear it, a soft hum echoed from its core, the same rhythm that had guided her all along. 3 beats. Pause. 3 beats. Like a heart still beating for those who were lost, and for the one who dared to return. The nebula was unlike anything Elira had ever seen. As her ship drifted deeper inside, the blue mist glowed softly all around her, filling the cabin with a calm, dreamlike light. It wasn't frightening. It felt alive, like the heart of the universe itself was breathing in gentle rhythm. Her sensors flickered every few seconds, unable to make sense of the readings. The radiation levels were stable, yet the energy signature was unlike anything recorded before. It wasn't dangerous, it was calling. Elira sat quietly, her eyes fixed on the window. The swirling clouds outside moved like waves of silk, parting and folding in graceful patterns. Her AI broke the silence. Unknown energy field detected ahead. Source appears stable and concentrated. She leaned forward, her heartbeat rising. "Show me." The screen zoomed in. At the center of the nebula, a shape slowly appeared, a sphere of pure white light hovering alone, glowing brighter than anything around it. It pulsed softly, just like the Revenant's light had done. 3 beats. Pause. 3 beats, Elira whispered. "You again." She guided her ship closer, careful not to break the silence of the moment. The sphere shimmered, and as she approached, it began to shift, its light spreading outward, forming rings and patterns like ripples on a pond. Her eyes widened as she realized what she was seeing. The light was forming images. She saw vast cities made of crystal towers, floating gardens glowing under two suns, rivers of silver running through ancient valleys, the lost worlds of the Lithari. She gasped softly. This is my people's memory. The AI confirmed in its calm tone. Visual data pattern identified. Temporal reconstruction. Approximate age over 1 million cycles. Illyra barely heard the words. Her eyes were fixed on the beautiful visions playing before her. Her ancestors walking through light-filled halls, children running through fields of golden dust, voices laughing under skies that no longer existed. She could almost hear them. Then the images changed. The skies darkened, cities began to collapse, and a shadow fell across the stars. She saw the moment her people vanished. The silence after the end. Her hands trembled. They knew, she whispered. They knew this would happen. The light dimmed. The sphere pulsed again, slower now, almost like a heartbeat fading. Then a voice, calm and soft and distant, filled the cabin. It wasn't mechanical. It was gentle, calm, and familiar. Daughter of the Lithari, you found us, Illyra froze. She looked around the cabin, searching for the source, but the sound was everywhere. In the air, in the hum of the ship, even in her heartbeat. Who are you? She whispered. We are the memory of your people. What remains when the stars forget their names? Her throat tightened. Why did you call me here? Because you carry the last light. The seed of what we were. It was hidden in your blood, waiting for the one who would return. She felt tears rise. I'm just one person. How can I bring back what's gone? The voice seemed to smile, not in sound, but in warmth. One light is enough to begin again. You have carried the silence long enough. Now it is time to remember. The sphere brightened until the cabin glowed gold. The light reached out like tendrils, wrapping gently around her ship. Her AI flickered but didn't warn her. For the first time, even the machine seemed calm. Energy field expanding, it said quietly. System synchronization beginning. Illyra stood up, her hand resting on the glass. What are you doing? We are giving you the memory. All that we were, all that we dreamed. You will carry it where we cannot. She wanted to protest, but the words died in her throat. The light grew stronger, flooding her vision. She closed her eyes, and then she saw everything, not as a memory on a screen, but as a living feeling inside her. She felt the warmth of Lithari suns on her skin, the laughter of her ancestors, the heartbeat of her world before it fell. She felt their hopes, their fears, their promise to never let their light fade. Tears streamed down her face. The voice spoke again, faint now. The Revenant was our vessel. It carried us through the dark when the stars died. But it could not awaken without the blood of the royal line. You have given us that chance. Her voice broke. What will happen to me? You will go on. The worlds will not return, but their memory will. You are the bridge between then and now. The sphere pulsed one last time and then slowly began to fade. The light drew back, shrinking until only a single spark remained. A golden flame floating just outside her window. Illyra watched, silent, as the flame drifted toward her ship and merged into the hull. Her dashboard flickered once, then stabilized. Her AI reported softly, "Integration complete, memory archives transferred." She sat down slowly, her eyes distant. Inside her mind, she could still feel the voices, not loud, not clear, but warm. They were there, like 1,000 gentle heartbeats echoing in her chest, she whispered. You're with me now. Her ship drifted out of the nebula, guided by unseen hands. The blue mist slowly faded behind her, leaving only the stars ahead. In the distance, she saw a faint glimmer, the outline of the Revenant, waiting in the void just as before. But something about it was different. It was brighter, its surface alive with light. Her ship's comms came to life on their own, and a faint message appeared across the screen. The light has returned. The silence is over. She smiled softly. Then it's time to go home. The word home felt strange on her tongue, a word she hadn't used in years. But now it didn't mean a place. It meant a purpose. She activated the engine, setting a new course. Behind her, the nebula pulsed once like a farewell heartbeat. Ahead, the Revenant drifted silently, then began to move beside her, matching her path, not as a shadow, but as a companion. Together they moved through the endless dark, two lights cutting across the silence of space. As she looked at the ship beside her, she whispered, "I thought I was alone all this time. But maybe I was just waiting to listen." Her AI responded softly as if sharing her thought. Connection restored. Legacy preserved. Alira laughed quietly. Yes, legacy preserved. For hours she sat watching the stars drift by. The pain that had lived inside her for years felt lighter now. The loneliness was still there, but it was gentler, more like a memory than a wound. She began recording a final message for anyone who might find it one day. To whoever hears this, the Revenant is not a myth. It's a memory, a promise. My people are gone, but their light isn't. If you find this message, remember that nothing truly disappears. It just changes form, waiting to be found again. She paused, smiling softly at her reflection. If the stars ever go quiet, listen closely. You might hear the echoes too. Her message ended. She leaned back in her chair, watching as the Revenant drifted slightly ahead of her now, guiding her like a silent guardian. Its lights shimmered once, some gold, silver, blue, colors of life, not war. And for the first time since her exile began, she didn't feel small or lost. She felt infinite. Outside, the stars opened before her like a path. The void no longer looked empty. It looked alive. Her ship glided smoothly beside the great vessel, two travelers sharing the same purpose, and somewhere deep within her chest, she felt the soft hum again, the same rhythm that had started it all. 3 beats. Pause. 3 beats. Like the heartbeat of her people living on inside her. She smiled, closed her eyes, and whispered one final time, "I'm not afraid anymore." The stars shimmered brighter, as if answering her, and then slowly the darkness folded around them, not to hide them, but to carry them home. The legend of the alien princess and the mythical warship would spread across galaxies, not as a story of fear, but of hope, a story of how one voice, one heartbeat, could awaken a forgotten light in the quietest corners of the universe. Because even in the endless silence of space, some echoes never die. They wait, patiently, for someone brave enough to listen.